Well, hi, this is Susie650, and today I'm going to be stepping onto a taboo subject in this day and age. So, I got to a land of talking to my friends and realised that a good majority of my friends smoke. So, don't get me wrong, I've been a smoker in the past, and I've come off of it, and I've gone back onto it, and I've come off of it, and it's a hard thing to give up. Although I fear that I found some kind of passage that allowed me to take breaks from it. So I started asking and just went, why do you still smoke? And most of the answers that I got back, I have to admit, I found them to be, how can I put it? Stress related. It's normally stress related, or the fact of that people don't have enough time in their lives, so they find a time by having a smoke. So, if you're not a smoker and you're watching this, then it's something that you may have been curious about. Please feel free to subscribe and say your piece. But also, if you're a smoker, come back to me with answers so I can hear your thoughts on this, so that other people can hear, which is always good. So please leave comments. Now, what I've discovered is that smoking is something that has been degraded and upgraded in so many different ways. The initial starting of smoking is normally when you're a child, you have a friend, or you have a friend of a friend, or you have a father or a mother that smokes. You either steal a fag or get given a cigarette, and that's how it begins. And then you realise that, oh, you know, you can do this and you look favourable to your friends and round your friends. Maybe you actually just like the taste of it. So that's how a lot of people, in my experience, have come up to with the fact of smoking. My personal one was that I got given it while I was on a very low patch in my life, and it caught on, and it just sort of went from I'll smoke one, I'll smoke two, okay, I can get away with that, I don't need to do it. Then it sort of went on that I was getting to sort of 4 a day, which isn't exactly excessive, but it's still more than what it was when you're doing nothing. And then it went on to 5, and I was buying tailor-made fags. So this is like boxed fags. And at that point, I'm starting to realise that I'm getting through a box of 20 in a very, very short space of time. I remember the days when you could buy a box of 10. I even remember people that would actually get hold of a box and split the cigarettes up and sell them for £1 a cigarette. Not the greatest idea. But the tobacco industry is making money out of us no matter what way we do it, because logically looking at it, they're there to sell a product. So the thing that I'm going is, I'm going to try and relate my issue of how I found out that I could sort of give it up, my reasoning for it, and as I say, please leave comments. It would be interesting to hear from your aspects. My one was that I used to smoke, and I used to work in an office. And I got to a point of where I just went, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it. I was getting sore throats, didn't like it, and just went, actually, I've hit a time where I can just go, I could actually possibly walk away from this. Hadn't smoked for sort of 2 or 3 days because of the throat, and was sitting in an office. And while I'm sitting in this office, my boss got up and told me, I said, I'm going to go for a cigarette. So they went out for a cigarette. Now, I was sitting where I was doing my job, and 20 minutes later, that boss has come back in and gone, right, okay, if you want to go for a cigarette, go for a cigarette. And I went, but I'm not actually smoking at the moment. This is in my head. I'm not smoking at the moment. Yeah, okay, I'll take it. So I got up and I walked into the cigarette hut, and I watched the next person that came in, and I literally took note of what the time was, and then I'm floating through my phone. Had no urge to smoke, didn't want to smoke, was still far enough away from smokers that it wasn't tempting me as such, couldn't smell it. And as soon as he left, I gave it about 2 minutes, and then I walked back in again. Now, I sat down, done my job, and 40 minutes later, my boss got up again and went, I'm just going to go for a quick fag. Now, I sat there and I realised to myself that in the process of this, she couldn't smell that I hadn't been smoking because she's a smoker. I was still picking up the time that I would smoke. So that'd be, what, 4, maybe 5 fags a day. So that's a long time when you're looking at about 15 to 20 minutes each time you're having a cigarette. And all of a sudden I was gaining this time back. And I sat there and I thought, this is some of the reasoning. I know it sounds stupid where people would think this, but this is some of the reasoning why when you give up smoking, you realise that all of a sudden you've got this thing that other people haven't got. Now, those people have also got an issue as well, because the non-smokers have to work all the way through. If you walk up to your boss now as a non-smoker and went, I'm going to go for a 10-minute break, they go, no, not happening. Not happening in any way, shape or form. But if you walked up to a smoker, shall I say, if you went out and spoke to your boss and told me I'm a smoker and I'd like to have a cigarette, then they would go, oh, okay. The reasoning why is because they're afraid that they're taking away some of your rights, or they are going to have somebody who's cranky because they haven't had a cigarette, so they allow it. And you get approximately half an hour to 45 minutes each day that's still paid, because they don't take cigarette breaks out, from what my knowledge goes. And this is where some of the issue is. So I came to another thought, and I sat there and I thought, well, there's 3 different ways of smoking a cigarette. You can smoke a tailor-made cigarette, which has a filter. You can smoke a roll-up that has a filter. Or you can smoke a straight, which is either a roach, which is basically rolled up cardboard, or you just have all the tobacco going in your mouth. And I realised that the people that had filters in their cigarettes kept coming back sooner than the ones that had like a straight through. So they were either smoking it straight with the paper, or they had a cardboard roach in it that they put into it, and it was just chucking their lungs full of just tobacco. And I sat there and I thought, there's so many different ways of doing it. But then what I realised from my experience is that I got to a point where I was doing night shifts and I didn't have my boss there. And there were still people smoking in the smoking hut. But what I'd do is I'd go out and I would walk around a very large expanse of ground, about 20 minutes or thereabouts. I would come back to my position, and then I didn't want to have a cigarette because I got past it, and then started realising this other little weird thing. The other little weird thing is that, was I actually missing the smoke? Was I missing the people and the conversation? Because conversations are always a nice thing. It's letting your brain sort of come alive rather than just doing what you're doing as a job. Or was I missing something else? And what I found out was I actually missed going out and just having an air break. So just to go outside, different atmosphere, different venue, and just breathing air and then coming back in again. And that actually kept me non-smoking for over 6 months. And then unfortunately a situation happened, as will always overtake everything. And somebody passed in my family. And that at that point took it away, because it went back to smoking because it was a stress situation and it was all I'd ever known to do. So my first result was to go and smoke. I felt quite let down for that. I felt like I betrayed myself. But it's a weird dynamic that it's because you know no other way of doing it. I mean, some people go out and exercise and that gets rid of stress. For a smoker, if you're a smoker, they will go and they will have a cigarette. But if you're a non-smoker trying to give up, the one thing that always tilts things back is pressure of a situation that they didn't know and unexpectedly comes up. Loss of a job, a family member passing, a friend passing, the fact that you've been put with a huge bill because of, I don't know, an MOT bill, or your car's been written off, or somebody's stolen from you, and the stress of it. And then the first thing you go is, oh, I need a fag. Man, that's just inbuilt to your head because you've done it and you know that that's a thing. So the question that I'm asking is, yes, this is the question I'm asking. If you've been a smoker and given up, can you please leave in the comments your experiences of how you've done it and how you felt afterwards? Can you give the reasons of why you suddenly got to a point of where you stopped? And if you've restarted again, can you give the reasons of why you've restarted? And how much of a time frame between giving up to restarting again it was? So the question I'm asking here is for smokers to come and say hi and tell me your stories. And at this present second, after quite heavy checks, I found out that 1.1 billion people on this planet still smoke to this day. So the tobacco industries are making a huge amount of money out of it one way or the other. But what is it that keeps us going back if we do go back? And how hard is it to give up? And for what period of time? And just exactly how long does it go before that urge to go back to it goes in any way, shape or form? So, my own personal experience, I've given up 3 times. Still in the middle of a giving up period at this present second in time. So please leave comments below and just tell me your story. And just exactly how much of a grasp has got tobacco written on it. And with that, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. And this is me waiting for your replies. Susie650 signing out.